Hi guys, welcome back to another sewing tutorial with Chioma Stitches. My name is Chioma. Today we're going to be sewing a child's dress. I just want to take a moment to thank our returning subscribers, and for those who are going to be subscribing today, thank you for coming. Let's do this. So the girl is a 10-year-old that's really big, and it's going to come out like a ball gown, but we're not going to stuff it so much net to make it too big and puffy because she's already on the big side. To draft the yoke of the dress, I'm going in with 14 inches, which is her half length. I'm just marking the 14 inches half length to the end. To draft her basic block bodies for her half length, we're going to be using the largest part of her body measurement, which is her bust, which is 39.5 inches. So I'm going to be dividing 39.5 inches by 4 inches. So as I'm marking this 11 inches for the back, I'm just going to indicate the 1 inch I'm taking out for the zip allowance. Using a clearer marker to make the lines bolder so that it doesn't look too faint. Okay, so now I'm going to impute in her shoulder measurement, and this young lady's measurement for her shoulder is 16 inches, that is 8. So I'm going to be marking 8 after the 1 inch zip allowance. Then I'm going to come down and slide down by 1 inch for the shoulder slanting, and then I'm going to divide her bust area with 6 and add 1.5 to get her armhole. So her armhole is giving me 8 inches. So I'm just going to mark this 8 inches, and then so from the top of the shoulder to the 8 inches, that is 9 in all. I'm just going to bring the same 9 here and mark it, and then connect these two armhole lines together. I'm just marking down the armhole line now. I'm marking the shoulder measurement 8 inches for the front as well, and for the front measurement we're taking in 1.5 inch for the shoulder slanting, and then I'm going to connect the lines like we did for the back. Let me just cut out this excess that is disturbing me. Now we have exactly what we need to work with. For the front neckline, I'm going to divide her bust measurement by 12, and this is giving me 2.9, but 2.9 I don't want it to be choky on her because she's a child, so I'm just going to go ahead and use 3.5 for her. So 3.5 for the width and 3.5 for the depth for the front part. So I'm just going to mark out that 3.5 like so. I'm marking out the 3.5 and for the depth as well. Now for the back, I'm going to be using the same 3.5 for the width, and then I'm using 1 inch for the depth, and then I'm going to use a ruler to connect these lines for the front and the back. So after connecting the lines, I'm just going to use my straight ruler to connect the shoulder slantings for the front and back. To curve the armholes now, I'm going to curve the back armhole by dividing the armhole measurement into 2, which is 4 inches. I'm just going to go in with 1/2 inch, and then I mark more than 1/2 inch, but I'm just going to use 1/2 inch to connect it to the slanted line, and then use my curved ruler to mark out the armhole. And then for the front part, I'm going to do this go up by 3 inches, and then I'm going to come in inside the measurement by 0.75, use my straight ruler to connect it to the shoulder slanting, and then use the curved part to also mark out the armhole. I couldn't find my armhole ruler. Okay, to impute her bust measurement, I'm going to divide her bust 39.5 by 4, and I got 9.875. Now I'm just going to add 0.2 to it to give us 10 inches. Because she's a child, it doesn't have to be too tight on her, so I'm going to go ahead and mark the 10 inches both for the front and for the back. And please note that when you are marking out the 10 inches for the back, you are going to start from the line after the zip allowance. We do not want to include the zip allowance since we've already stated it clearly. To impute her waist measurement and her underbust measurement, her underbust is from the shoulder to underbust is 12.5, and then her waist measurement that we're working with, the half length, is 14 inches. I'm just going to divide the waist measurement. The waist is 36.5 inches and the underbust is 34.5 inches, and we're going to be adding 1 inch for that, just to give it a little bit of curve because she's developing. So I'm going to go ahead and cut out the front and back pattern as we have drafted it with the little curve it has. Now this is our pattern. This is the lace we are working with, the applique we are going to use for the top part, the doll face, and the lining we are going to be using for the inner part of the dress. Now I'm going to use the doll face to cut out the flare of the down part and use the remaining fabric to cut out the upper bodies of the gown we want to sew. Okay, so right now I have the fabric folded in half on the floor like this. What we have here is a complete 3 yards, and I'm just going to go ahead and fold this and again into 4, but not in 4 corner shape. I'm going to be folding this into a triangular shape, and this is to help me manage this fabric and to get it. Might not be complete 360, but it will look like it. Now we're going to go ahead and cut out the flare, dividing the waist into 4 and considering the zip allowance. Okay, this is what we've cut out. Here it is. I'm now going to only this part. This is the only one I'm cutting as flare, so I'm going to be pleating the lace on it, and I'll also pleat this other net, this tulle on it, and then the lining will be inside of it. It will be pleated as well. The pleating effect on these other ones is going to help give the dress fullness. So instead of, and there will be no need to add extra thickening net to make it full. Like I mentioned, our client is chubby. Okay, so I'm going to use the fabric that is left to cut out the yoke of this dress. So this is what is left after we cut out the flare parts. I'm going to be using it to cut out the yoke of the dress. I'm just taking out to the side, and I want to fold it. Placing the front pattern on it and pinning it down, now I'm going to use my fabric chalk and mark out half inch on the shoulder line on armhole, and then I'm on the 1.5 inch on the side for the sewing allowance. Cutting out the back pattern as well. Alright, so I've cut it all out and I've cut out the lining pieces as well. So I'm just going to go ahead and take this to the machine, and I will try and join the shoulder lines. But for the back part, because I would like the zip to be concealed inside, I am going to start off by joining the zip for the back halfway. I'm going to join the zip halfway to say somewhere around here, so that I can now leave this place open, so that I can use the lining piece to cover the neckline and cover the zip as well. So that is the reason why I'm doing that. I am looking for the zip. Alright, okay, the zip is somewhere, and alright, I found it. So here is the zip. So I'm going to be attaching the zip, and I'm going to sew it and cover some of the parts, and I'll show us how I'm doing that as well. So I'm just going to go ahead and sew it, and then sew up the neckline, and basically try and finish up the sides for the top before I bring it back, and then we can start joining the down part and all the other fabrics we're using to sew it. So please just stay tuned and let's go and do this. I'm going to start by putting in the zip first. So I'm placing the zip, the right side facing right side, and I'm just going to place it on the 1 inch sewing allowance we have added. And so I'm measuring it to be sure of the 1 inch, and then I'm going to pin here. And so when you zip it, this is what you're going to be getting. So I will sew the other part of the zip on the other side of the back piece. I've attached the zip. This is where I want to stop for now, so I can fold in the neckline. So to sew in this neckline, I'm going to be using the other pieces of the back. Okay, so I'm just going to take this one here and I'm going to sew with 1/4 of an inch, and when I'm done sewing I will top stitch it, and I'll do the same thing for the front piece. And by the way, I have also taken out the darts. Okay, so what I'm going to go ahead and do for this front piece is I'm going to sew here the armhole with 1/4 of an inch, and this is because for this armhole we are not going to be adding sleeve, so I'm going to sew it to conceal the armhole. And when I'm done sewing, because this place is curvy, I am going to be making small cuts inside to keep it neatly concealed as well. Here I'm sewing the armhole to conceal the armhole so that there will be no rough edges around here, since we are not going to be adding a sleeve. And I'll do the same thing for the front piece as well. Now for the cuffed parts, I'm just making small cuts inside so that when we iron it, it will lay down flat and neat. Now the reason why we had to join the back, we had to put the zip first before putting this one, the lining piece for the back, is because I want to conceal the back, the zip. Okay, now that I have top stitch here, I'm just going to fold it in like so, and then I'm going to sew it close to the zip, but not on the zip. Okay, you can do this from the back so that it will help you control it, or you can also sew from the front, and the zip line here is going to help you control it. Now this is going to help you. This is it. Here we have a neatly finished zip back. This is the front and this is the back. This is why you have to do it. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing here. And when I do this, I'm also going to sew the armhole here like I did for the front piece. Okay, then I'll iron this before we start other parts. Okay, so that now that I've done this for the zip, here's the zip and here's the front. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is join the shoulders for this and then join the sides. So what I'm going to do is place the front to the front, and then from the back I'm just going to pass my hand under and then come out here and hold in the shoulder for the front and pull it inside. So now I'm going to just arrange this in here. Arrange it like this. This method, when you do it, it is going to conceal the sewing inside. So I'm just pinning this. I'm going to go ahead and sew. So here it is. I've sewn it. So turn it inside out. If you look, you can see the top stitching on both the back and the front. Okay, so I'll do the same thing for the other side of the shoulder. Okay, so I have sewn the shoulder for both shoulders. So now I'm going to try and join the sides. So to do this, I'm just going to hold it out like this. From the armhole, I'm just going to join it together and sew a straight line. I'm just going to sew a straight line. Okay, right sides to right sides. Okay, so this is it. This is the first side, this is the back, this is the front. So I have joined this is the armhole. So you're seeing that the main fabric is different, is on its own, and lining piece is on its own. This is the purpose of this. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing on this other side, and then we iron it and take it to the table to attach the other parts of the dress. Now we're going to go ahead and cut out the layers for the down part of the dress, starting with the tulle. Now for the tulle part, when we are pleating it, we'll make it so light that it will be very easy for us to see the designs of the lace, since the tulle will be laying on the lace as the first part of the layer we're cutting, and then the next one will not be the doll face after the lace, and then the lining for the inside. But the thing is, now the client called to reduce the length of the dress for her child, because the child is on a big side, like I mentioned. So now she wants the dress to be like a few inches longer than her knee length. So we're going to be reducing the length, and so for that I had to cut out this doll face, reduce the length of the doll face. So the doll face is now 24 inches in length instead of 41 inches that we initially cut, and the lace is 26 inches, while the tulle, that's the net, is 28 inches. So I made them 2 inches shorter than each other so that where the designs will come out very well. And then for the lining inside, I cut that one to be like 22 inches, but you can also make it the same length as the doll face, since that both of them are going to be like the lining inside. So I'm cutting out the lace, and I'm going to go ahead and join it and then bring it back to pleat it. Now this is the inner lining that we're going to be using to conceal everything, so that the inside of the dress will be as clean as the outside. And I'm cutting it out to be 22 inches in length. I'm just going to make it 2 of them. Now when I pleat all of these parts inside, it's going to help to give fullness and carriage to the dress. So let's go ahead and start pleating on the yoke. All right, here is the yoke. I've already ironed it, and this is the back. And so now I'm just going to open it up. I'm going to open it completely and then start to attach first I'm going to attach this net. I'm going to go ahead and pleat this net first. That is why I made the main fabric to stay on its own, so that the lining piece will stay on its own. Okay, this is why I had to double it. So I'm going to go ahead and sew this net first. So the light has not been stable, as you can see, and but I have to just do this work. And then so here I've done this part. Okay, so I've pleated it here. So let me show you the rough parts. So I pleated it only on the main fabric. Here's the lining piece. The lining piece is where I'm going to be pleating the lining, but this one is for the main fabric. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is open it up like so and pleat this one, pleat the lace on top of it. One as well, and just pleat it the way I've pleated this. I'm just going to pleat the lace here as well. When I'm done pleating the lace, I am going to also sew this one on top of it. So look closely, this is where we are. So this is it. The first layer is the net, as you can see. The second layer is the lace fabric, and then the next one is the doll face. Okay, so now I am going to be sewing on the lining. So the same way I've gathered these ones onto this side. I'm going to gather it onto the lining piece so that both the inside and outside will just be clean. This is the front and this is the back. I've sewn in the inner lining. Look at the back. Now the lining conceals all of the roughness. So here is the lining piece. Okay, so you open this up, you find the door face, right? You open up the door face like so, and there is the lace. And then when you take off the lace, is our net. Okay, now I'm going to show us how we're going to join this whole sides together and then attach the zip. Now if you want this to actually be very full and be so weighty, you know, and so when the person wears it to be very full, you know, you can now add extra. You can add as many nets inside. Those thick nets, you just gather them. You can gather as many as you want here and even gather extra on the lining. So when you cover up everything, it's just going to poof. Okay, so now what I want to do now is join this side to side. So just like the way we sewed it together, so I'm bringing it together. First, you are going to take up the this zip now. First, we want to extend this zip and be sure where this zip is going to stop. Okay, so when we sew this zip, we're going to be stopping somewhere around here. So this is where I'm going to be pinning. So this is where we will stop sewing, doing the joinings. So right here, I'm just going to hold out this like this, and then I will sew from here. So I'm just going to sew the net alone. I'm going to sew the net alone and stop somewhere around here. Because there are 3 of them I have to join together, I'm going to stop somewhere around here. And then when I stop here, I'll bring it and show us how we're going to attach this to it and then sew this one last. Okay, so here lining is off. Take this one out. So I have joined this is the net. I have sewn it together. Just see, I've sewn the lace as well. I sewed and I stopped exactly where I stopped for the net. So here is the net that we've sewn. So what I do is come to where I have sewn the net, come down by 1 inch and cut it open. Right? Now I'm going to put it inside here. Bring the lace piece, that's the next layer. So this process, you can do it even if you have 10 layers of net and you want all of them to stand on their own after sewing. Like they want to just be on their own, you can lift them up individually. This is the method you use. Unless you want to gather all of them and sew it together. But if you want to sew it and they will all stand individually, this is the method. So I'm going to put it inside here. Now I'm going to just be sure that these two, just measure it and place this on the lace, where lace or whatever layer that is remaining, where they meet here, where this join. And then I'm going to see the reason why I cut here to the sewing allowance, to the sewing line, so that I can put this place inside like this and then place this on top of it. Now this is the new sewing line I'm going to use. So I'm going to go ahead and sew. I've already sewn this part here. I'm going to continue from here and sew till like another 1 inch or up to 3 inches up here. I will stop it and then I'll come down by 1 inch again, cut the whole of these two together open, and then join this one. So I have sewn this part. Okay, so I have sewn this with the net inside. See, even though it's different color, I'm sure you can still see it though. Okay, now when you are sewing this, the secret is sew with your 1 inch sewing allowance or the number of allowance you left, so that you'll be able to maintain sewing on the same line. Okay, now look at this one now from here. See where the joining is, and this is the opening where we started sewing it from. Sure you can see. Now this is where we joined these two from, and now this part I might go ahead and trim out the excesses and leave maybe half an inch over here. Okay, now we're going to repeat the same thing we just did here, now this time with the doll face. So I'm going to hold down the doll face. Now what I'm going to do, come down from where I stopped sewing here. I'm going to come down, say 1 inch again, and now I'm going to open it up. So I've opened it up, I've cut it close to the sewing. So I've cut close to the seam line, right? But don't cut open the seam line. Now I'm going to take this one as well. Hold it down like this. Here. And hold this other side to the same direction. See? Now this part that I've opened, I'm just going to bend it under, fold this one on top. Now this method I'm teaching you, this is what people pay for my classes, to attend classes on how to sew kiddies wear, and I'm giving it out for free. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and sew this one. I'm going to sew this one from here, from the end, and sew all the way to the part where we're going to start to attach the zip. So this class is free, and what you can help us to do is share this video and invite your friends to subscribe so that the page will grow and we continue to give you free training. See, I've sewn the lining and I've also completed the main fabric, the joining. So look at this now. Let me just turn it inside out. Now this is the back. Now this is the purpose of what we did. Look here. Now this is on its own a layer. This is another layer. See, and this is its own layer. This is why we had to sew this and cut open all these places. Okay. Now that's for that. Now the next thing I'm going to do is complete the zip line. So I'm going to go ahead and sew the zip. Sew all the way to the end, and then use the lining the way we have been concealing it to conceal it. Then we can start embellishing this dress with the applique we have for it. Okay, we're done with this dress, and this is the inside of the dress, and this inside of the dress is telling you that it needs to be weaved. This is the inside, and this is the back. This is the back. That's the inside of the dress. And this is a zip. Here is the front. This is the right side, the back of the right side. Okay. This is the front. Okay, now it's time for embellishments. And this is what I am thinking. Just make a slant on the front like this, and then we will do some on the back as well. So I think this number is enough for the front, and then for the back I'm thinking 2 here and 2 on the other side. So let's cut it out here, and then since there's still more left, I can cut it out, put 1 more here and 1 more here, just to design the back. So I'm going to go ahead and start doing this now. Okay, now this is how I'm going to attach it. I'm going to be using the glue gun for these bold places. I want to believe we know how to use a glue gun. And you pick it out, you place it before it dries up. Okay, it gets attached. Now that I'm going to place this first, and then